Hi, I'm Barry Sahajian. This is part 2 of the first slap bass tutorial. On part 1, I showed you a few licks and I explained how I was going to approach this series of slap bass lessons. Now, I'm going to talk a little less and we're going to do a little more, we're going to get right to work on some more lines and try to get you to be the best slap player that you can be by doing it the right way and being conscientious and observing all the aspects of the line, the articulation, the technique, the tone, and everything else. So number 5 sounds a little bit like this. Okay, what we have, a hammer on the first beat, a pop on the third beat, and it is a 4-measure phrase, and on the 4th measure, you play the hammer twice, once on the first beat, once on the third beat. Now, I'd like to point out, we have to think about our thumb being loose, our wrist being loose to slap, and we're hitting in sort of a spot around the top of the neck, but as I explained in the first video, it's not really necessary to hit right over the last fret like most people suggest. You can hit up here just as long as you can reach and pop here. So the first beat would be, so it would be 1 and 2, 1 and 2. You have the hammer, and then on beat 2, by the way, beat 2 is the back beat, so it's not something to be taken lightly. Like a drummer. So you can be right in, locked in with the drummer if you do that on this line. Now, let's talk about the muting. So what you're doing here is I'm shifting my hand after I do the hammer on to get in position to pop on the 5th fret of the G string. So I play my dead note over the C. And then I hit another dead note on beat 4. Another thing, usually you bounce your thumb, you usually bounce your thumb off the string, and it's not a up and down bouncing type thing. But when I pop on the C, I don't have time to bounce and then pop. So you notice I hit a dead note on the C and I'm right in position to pop. I don't bounce off there any. No bounce. So there's a couple of things to think about. The muting. Now watch this. Now on the second beat, when I hit a dead note on the C, 3rd fret of the A string, what I'm doing is I'm muting with these 3 fingers. I'm muting everything except for the C that I'm going to pop. So I get a nice clean sound. There's no ringing. If I don't do that, you hear the other notes ringing and it's sloppy. And see that? My right hand is loose. I'm using the doorknob technique, and I'm using a velocity. How hard I hit the string, sort of medium. I don't want to hit it too hard, so it'll start to distort, and it'll sound not so good. So all of these things have to be taken in consideration while you're practicing if you really want the great technique, the great sound. I'm using my hand loose as a goose. I'm doing a medium type velocity slap. I'm concentrating on muting so there's no other ringing sound, and that is the best I can do. And if you do practice like this, you will cut a lot of time out after you learn your favorite lick, and it sounds not so good because many of these elements, the muting and the articulation and the time, are missing. So I learned my flea lick, but it doesn't sound so good, and this is the reason why. You'll have to go and clean them up later. So if you learn properly right up front, you're way ahead of the game. Even though we're practicing very simple licks, not as exciting as a flea lick or a Victor lick. Okay, the next lick is example 6. This is all quarter notes. Now there's something else we can take into consideration playing just quarter notes. Seems all too simple to just play quarter notes. But if you speed up the quarter notes to 3 or 4 times the tempo you originally play, now you have a lick that's a little more complicated, and it sounds more exciting too. Playing things fast always does. And if you look in reverse, if the line is very fast and you slow it down, the line may sound complex when you're playing it so fast. If you break it down and play it very slow, you start to understand, and it maybe don't look so complicated anymore. So anyway, let me get rolling on number 6. So I'm going to play number 6, and then I'll explain what's going on. As simple as a lick sounds, I treat every lick, even if it's simple or not, to make it sound as best as I can. The articulation, once again, the velocity of my slap, not too hard to make it distort. My technique with my left hand, fretting, and the dead notes. All of these things, I have to think about them. I think about them when I practice, because when I go to play in my jam session or on my gig, I don't want to think about them. I want it in my muscle memory in my mind, so I just play and sound good without thinking about it. Because you can't think about this stuff when you're playing for real, because an old cliche, if you think, you'll stink. If you burn, you'll earn. I still like that one. Anyway, so we have a G, a C, and a D, 3rd fret on the G, E string, 3rd fret on the A, C note, and then we have 5th fret on the A string, which is a D. So some of the things we have to think about here is we're going to hit this G, make the G ring a full beat all the way up until when you hit a dead note on beat 2. Nice full sound on the G. Not too hard, medium velocity. Now, nice and loose on the right hand. I'm not pushing, I'm just letting my hand be loose and just land on it and bounce off. And now we have to think about the muting. Here we go again. I use 3 fingers. When I hit the G, I want that to ring without any other strings ringing or harmonic notes interfering with the clean, beautiful sound of the G. These 2 fingers are all hanging around there waiting to, mute the strings so it sounds great. Okay, we've done all of that, and we've done it slow, and we've worked very meticulously and being conscious of all these items. Let's speed it up, see what happens. You know, I'm playing, but I'm still listening for anything that doesn't sound quite right. I'm listening. I want it to sound good. So I'd like to, right now, I'd like to explain what I do with these licks at the end of the day. I put them on my Patreon page. I create play-alongs, slow and fast for the licks. I also create a PDF with all the lines on one sheet of paper. So you can go there and you can download the one sheet of paper and all the licks played slow and fast. I'm going to start a new policy with the play-alongs, so my MP3 will be one file with each of these licks played slow for a minute or two and then fast for a minute or two, one after the next, so you can practice this in a routine that'll only take you 10 minutes or something. You put your sheet up, you put the MP3 on, and you just rip through them all. If you have to stop and do one over, that's fine too. I'm going to see how that works out. And it will be the first time I've done this, and I hope it works out for you guys. And if anyone would like to comment and tell me what they think, I'd greatly appreciate that.